And welcome everybody to another Nothing Like a Good Book. I'm very, very grateful for the letters and the comments that I do get from people. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. Our authors are unknown, most of them, 99% of them. Great books though, and just maybe they're going to go somewhere. Some of them are starting to become bestsellers. This one is titled The Mindset of a Dyslexic Entrepreneur. Interesting title. It's really the Scott L Holman story, and it was authored by Don Steele. But today, I'm fortunate, from way over east, I've got Scott Holman on the line with me. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, winners have winning mindsets, and there's no doubt that you possess one. The Scott Holman, as Don Steele puts it, the one he's come to know is a man of great love for his family, a man who sacrifices his time to better his community, a generous man who gives whatever he can in need to those that need it, maybe cannot otherwise help themselves. He helps them. He's a shining example to others and a dear, loyal friend, a devoted husband, father, and grandfather. And that's from Don. Nicely put, right?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And he approached me about doing a book on some other recommendations. And at first I wasn't sure about doing that, and actually told him no. Then he called me and we had breakfast together, and he said, well, tell me a little bit about your life. And we got into the dyslexic part of it, which is high. And then it became interesting to me, because if I could do something in a book that would help out the 1 in 5 people who are dyslexic.
That's right. That's right. 1 in 5 in America have dyslexia. Yep. That's a lot, isn't it?
It is. And I'm just hoping that by bringing attention to it and starting a program at Northern Michigan University on dyslexic education.
Cool.
That can prevent other young people from going through not a very good K through 12 education period, as I did.
Right. Well, the book is titled The Mindset of a Dyslexic Entrepreneur. You never let it stop you. So, and in fact, John Kelly from the Detroit Free Press gives it 5 stars, this book by Don Steele. It's truly an inspiration for all of us who stand in awe of a life so filled with achievements and overcoming a multitude of obstacles. It's a primer into how to make success a choice. And that's what John Kelly has to say. Let me ask you this, Scott. How do you think your life would have changed if dyslexia were diagnosable when you were a child?
One of the things I like to compare it to is if Albert Einstein weren't dyslexic, there may not be a theory of relativity.
Huh. Well, there's a reverse engineering point of view on it all, isn't it? There's some very, very clever dyslexic people out there. So is it a blessing or is it a darn nuisance?
I think it starts off as a nuisance and winds up being a gift.
Okay.
And people like Richard Grant brag about it. And in fact, he tries, for his companies, tries to hire dyslexic individuals because they think out of the box.
Yes, they think out of the box. Well, I must be dyslexic then. As you read through the chapters of this book, you get to see various manifestations of it in yourself, revealing, your personal, the it factor behind your success. Bit of a daydreamer, but is that really a bad thing? I don't think so. At 82, barring any additional medical breakthroughs, Scott realizes that he's going to be on this treatment for the rest of his life, an excerpt from the book. But that won't stop him from continuing to live as he always has, scuba diving in the Caribbean, fixing and riding snowmobiles, boating out to and from his island, and shaking hands with customers at the Mount Shasta restaurant and asking them, how they're going along. Now, where are you now? Where are you located?
I'm in the Upper Peninsula, northern Michigan, in a town called Marquette. And like I said, as we started this, I'm looking out at Lake Superior. And if I could look a little bit more to the left, you would be able to see the island that I have with a lighthouse on it, which is referred to in the book.
Yeah, it sounds like a beautiful area. You are a long way away, but we've got good reception. That's good. Do you want to give us a preface, really, on your favorite things in business that you've achieved, even with your condition?
I love the game of business. That's the start. And I think that all starts when you're young and you have some business experiences that kind of leave a very positive mark on your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have an entrepreneurial program here at Northern Michigan University. But I've always said, and I used to be on the board at Northern,
mm-hmm.
you can't teach someone to be an entrepreneur. You can teach someone who is an entrepreneur the business skills he needs to succeed.
Okay. So, although the family business required, to live downstate, midway up Michigan's lower peninsula on the shores of Lake Huron, right? Huron. UP Living was a part of the Holman family. So, Scott, maritime, this was in your soul, right? You've had a lot to do with maritime experiences.
I have, yes. Scuba diving and certainly the lighthouse and living on the water.
What was that about the lighthouse again?
Well, I've always been attracted to being near the water, living on the water, and the imagination that conjures up in one to think about being in the middle of the largest freshwater lake in the world on a rocky island that's 2.5 acres, and you get up, you can't help but think about the lighthouse keepers who had no communication back to land, who had to have their mail delivered once a month and supplies, no fresh food, although they did have a fenced-in area in which they kept jackrabbits. And I have a picture of the two lighthouse keepers holding a shotgun and the jackrabbit up by his feet. So once a week, they probably had a fresh food meal.
So you live on a little rocky island, a couple of acres in actual space, in the middle of the biggest lake in Michigan.
In the world.
In the world. Talk about a writer's dream.
Lake Superior is the largest freshwater lake in the world.
Huge. One day I'll get to see it. This is said by Grady Harp from Amazon Top 100 Hall of Fame reviewer of the book that we are doing, The Mindset of a Dyslexic Entrepreneur. He says that Holman's unique life becomes an invaluable resource for incipient career planners. Instead of just listing platitudes of entrepreneurship, Steele lists examples of each step as journeyed throughout your career, Holman's career. So there's a lot in the book, more than we can really talk about, but the whole idea is to promote the book and, talk to you and get into your head a little bit. It's a great effort to have a book done. Don Steele was the actual author and, you gave him a lot of info. What advice would you give to, the others struggling with learning disabilities?
Well, it was, there's no other way to put it, but it was a horrible experience. And I detailed some of the things that happened during the early years when I could neither read nor write. And I'm 83 and going back to second grade. My memories are as vivid today as they were 5 years after this all happened.
Mm-hmm.
But second grade teacher put me up in front of the class to read a book. And I look at the page and I see nothing but ink on a page that makes no sense whatsoever. She was very upset with me and started to scream at me and calling me stupid in front of the class. And eventually I'm just dumbfounded. And so she marches up to the front of the class, grabs me by the shirt and pulls me off my feet out into the hallway down to first grade, plops me down in a seat in first grade and tells the teacher in front of that class that this kid's too dumb to be in second grade.
Oh, good Lord. Disgusting.
So the the satisfying part of my life is that even though my grades weren't terrific in high school, it was very difficult for me even then to read and to write. In fact, I was very, very slow in trying to read something and to write something else. But fortunately, Northern Michigan University had a president that had a policy of right to try. And they admitted me into this university. And thank goodness, because this has meant a lot to me. And if it had been any other school, I'm not sure I would have had, the help I needed to get through it. But
right. Well, you're big time in Michigan there. You're well loved and liked and very connected with the university. Why do you feel it is important, right? Because a lot of this is in the book itself, actually, to preserve Michigan's historical landmarks. What's in it for you?
I don't know if it's, as you get older, you become more interested in history, maybe because you are a part of it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But my family on both sides of my mother and dad's life are immigrants from Cornwall, England, and from Denmark. And so the folks from Denmark came over and started a grocery store and delivering ice to various parts of the community with horse and sleigh.
That's way back, huh?
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
And on the dad's side of the family, they were all miners coming from the tin mines in Cornwall to work in the copper and the iron mines in northern Michigan. And so I've always been fascinated by the stories that were told about my grandmother always going over to see the miners come out of the Jackson mine in Negaunee to find out if, in fact, their husbands were still alive, literally.
Yeah.
And very dangerous occupation, and many of them did not come out alive. And my grandfather was a mining captain, and he sunk mines all over iron mines all over the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Mm-hmm. He sunk a salt mine down in Louisiana with his crew. He went during the beginning of World War I over to Norway to sink a mine, underground mine in Norway with his rather large mining crew, which he brought with him on the ship and brought him back. Brought him back just in time for everybody to be exposed to the great flu epidemic at the time.
Okay, so about yourself, once you finally, discovered for yourself that you weren't stupid, right? And that the driving force in your life in college, you shared that you discovered that your best capabilities were taking written exams or tests. I mean, a lot of people hate that, never mind being dyslexic. The best part of your performance with the oral reports, through all of the trauma, apparently you knew what your shortcomings were, and they were reading and handwriting. But, like many people with learning difficulties, you coped with the creative workarounds that you did. What inspired you, to become an entrepreneur? What was it that inspired you?
I think I've been one since I was 10 years old, and I'll give you a silly example. My father was a dentist, and of course they wear this white robe and they send it to the cleaners, and he comes back with a very clean sheet of cardboard holding it together. And I was, as a kid, I was a rock hound and very interested in collecting rocks. And so we had a cabin on a lake called Michigamme, and it was in a tourist area. And so I would cut out the cardboard, line it off, paste the rocks on the cardboard, and label them, and then go up and set up a sand on a road where the tourists would be driving by.
Oh,
And
and then sell them. Yeah, very smart. So what qualities do you think are the most important, when it comes to entrepreneurship?
I think imagination, tenacity, and the love of business.
Okay.
The entrepreneur is one who likes to be independent, likes to get into something where he is his own boss, as opposed to reporting to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that the desire for independence is primary, and some positive results from early entrepreneurial experiences as a kid.
Right.
That drives it. In my later in my life, when I became part of, first of all, a recipient of the National Turnaround Entrepreneur of the Year, I was invited to be on their board.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we study as we were on that board is, what makes an entrepreneur an entrepreneur. And that is one of the things that we found was an early childhood experience that was positive.
Right, right. And that's very important. So I want to ask you this. In fact, another accolade for you, this book is a culmination of advice and lessons that Scott has learned and is now sharing for future generations. The Mindset of a Dyslexic Entrepreneur it's a quick read that is easy to digest and well organized, and is an all-encompassing resource for future entrepreneurs. That's Lauren Lee. She's a writer, gives it 5 stars. Another one. Let me ask you very quickly, still got a bit to get through in short time, Scott. Did your time in the military impact your outlook, do you think, on life? Or your business ventures, for that matter?
I think what the military does for me and for anybody else is to force a level of discipline in what you're working on and your life as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you get. Personally, I think that's what...
That's it. That seems to be the biggest thing that comes out when I interview, but it's the discipline factor. Now, let me ask you this then. What is the it factor? How does that apply to you, Scott L Holman?
Well, this is something that the author, Don, has come up with, and he has identified people who have, you've heard it, well, he's got it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
So he has actually written another book on the it factor. I'm just one chapter on that. And it identifies a lot of individuals, men and women, that have it.
Right.
And
right.
their accolades in their life and what makes them be included in his it factor book.
The book is called The Mindset of a Dyslexic Entrepreneur. It's the whole story of Scott L Holman, right, authored by Don Steele. And whether it's buying a lighthouse and restoring it, renovating a local business to get it up and running again, or even serving on multiple boards from universities to the local Chamber of Commerce. This book, it shows a person with a can-do attitude and an entrepreneurial spirit that engenders the American dream. If you believe it's still there, believe it and go after it and do it. Holman's story is a powerful reminder that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Flying Books Review, and previously was Catherine Picard, the librarian book connoisseur. It's a credit to you. Let me ask you this, we're nearly out of time, but what does success mean to you, Scott?
Well, I think becoming wealthy and being successful are mutually independent. You could be wealthy and not successful, and you could be successful and not necessarily wealthy.
I'm sorry for laughing, but you really hit the hammer on the head on that one.
And so I think success means to me is accomplishing your goals, making sure that the things you are working on and accomplish are align themselves with a set of values that you have. I've actually sat down and written out my own set of values, and I look at them from time to time and make sure that I'm as I make decisions as to whether to start a bank or whether to go into this manufacturing business or many other things. If I do this, am I aligning myself with my values? I believe that, for example, that it is for your family that defines everything else that you do, so that's just one of my own values.
Scott, if I may, you mentioned your efforts before in this interview to support future entrepreneurs, right? Can you expand on that?
Yes, I have a meeting actually at the university tomorrow, in which we're going to sit down with the provost president, and I'm going to donate all the proceeds of my book to dyslexic education at Northern Michigan University. And so the first step of that is we're a teaching university as well as other things. And so what we want to do is be able to teach future teachers how to identify and how to teach dyslexic students. There is a gold standard for teaching dyslexic students, and it's called the Orton-Gillingham method of multisensory teaching. And so we're going to start that program at NMU, and we're going to expand that to include getting out to some of the early ed schools in the local towns and seeing if we can't help identify students that are dyslexic, and then bring them in, talk with their parents, bring them into the university, and have a certified Orton Academy instructor help teach these kids that method of learning to read. And so I think the state of Michigan, fortunately, has passed two laws that take place in about 2 years. One is that every elementary school in the state must test their first and second graders for dyslexia. And then number two, every university in Michigan that teaches teachers has to provide a class outlining all aspects of dyslexia before they can be graduate as a teacher in Michigan school system. And
well, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, the book is all about sales, and all the money made from the sales is going towards this incredible cause where 1 in 5 of Americans alone are the mindset of a dyslexic entrepreneur. I mean, it's fashioned from multiple viewpoints on multiple aspects of an amazing life regarding yourself, a multifaceted individual, Scott Holman, or Scott L Holman, who came from humble beginnings in northern Michigan to impress everyone he met and dealt with. Brad Butler, he was the author of Without Redemption. Listen, let me ask you this, Scott. What's the most important lesson readers can take away from your life?
Well, I like the words never give up, that helped England beat Hitler, and the speech that was never give up, never give up, never give up. And that was the end of the speech. And so I think there were times when I was in this manufacturing business, for example, that it was not going well. I could have easily left and found another job. I decided to be patient and figure out a way. I figured the only way to succeed was either for me to leave or to buy the place. And I decided on trying to figure out a way to buy the place. And because I could see, in my view, that the way that little division was being run under the umbrella of a large corporation was not at all entrepreneurial. I'll tell you a little. One of the big meetings that we had once a year, where all of the 17 division managers, including myself, we broke down into small groups to decide how we could all do better in our division. And I brought up what happens in a large corporation. An entrepreneur in a large corporation is known as intrapreneurship. And I brought that up and saying that more of the decision making should be at the manager's level, and he should be allowed to fail without being fired.
Right.
And
right.
my small group all agreed with that. And when I got up in the big session to say what we agreed on, and told them that we need to be acting more as division managers, more like entrepreneurs, I was approached by one of the vice presidents afterwards, and he said, Scott, he said, you're doing a great job. I think you've got a great career here at, it was Mental Ross at the time. And he said, mention going the way of an entrepreneur. Again, we view entrepreneurs as loose cannons.
Listen, loose Scots. Oh, dear, loose cannons. Look, a very interesting story. Scott Holman, a northern Michigan native, he's overcome dyslexia to become a world-class entrepreneur, along with many other accomplishments. Well done. Congrats. I love what you're doing for people with dyslexia, 1 in 5. The book is called The Mindset of a Dyslexic Entrepreneur. Where can people buy it, Scott?
Yes, they can buy it at Amazon, and I hope they do. And if they want to contribute to dyslexic education, they can reach Hannah at Northern Michigan University in Marquette, the development office, to make contributions to dyslexic education.
All right, so that's Northern Michigan Uni, okay, and yep, okay.
Northern Michigan University
in Marquette. So it's through them. Okay. Do you happen to have a website yourself? With your book on it.
Do I have
a website? Do you have a book website done? I was just going to refer people to it where they could buy it directly. Is that feasible? Can you do that?
I think Don is working on setting up a website now.
All right, great stuff. All right, good one. Well, when we do know and we've got the address on it, I'll add it to the bio on the site, markbishopmedia.com, where all authors are featured in Nothing Like a Good Book, and we'll put that so people can do that. In the meantime, they can go to Northern Michigan Uni, and is there an email for them straight off the top? Do you know, Scott? Well, that could be looked up, I guess. All right.
It is Northern Michigan University, and Mark, I really appreciate your having me on and the invitation.
That's okay. Let's hope it sells a lot, because a darn good cause, all the money. You're keeping nothing of it. Don Steele, great job, good effort, and great book. And let's hope. You've got to read the book. There's a lot more in it, hell of a lot more in it. and it's motivating, It's motivating. It's not easy for people with dyslexia. It's just not. And this is motivating. So, lovely meeting you, sir. All the very best with your cause, and have a nice day. Take care.
Mark, thank you so much. All right.